They took the daughter of a man who looked like an ordinary driving instructor. No one knew that this calm, middle-aged man had once been the lead instructor for the Vanguard, one of America's most secret and lethal counterterrorism units. Those who made that mistake would soon learn that there are things far worse than prison or death. There is a father who has been stripped of the only thing he has left. And when a man like that starts to move, the ground burns beneath the feet of those who stand in his way. My name is David Alexander Riley, but everyone calls me Alex. I'm 40 years old. For the last 6 years, I've worked as a defensive driving instructor at a driving school on the outskirts of Northern Virginia. I teach regular people how to brake properly on ice, how to recover from a skid, and how to avoid accidents. It's a simple job, a quiet life. No surprises. That's exactly what I wanted after everything that came before. I live in a regular 2-bedroom apartment on the 8th floor of a building in a quiet, residential suburb, far from the DC rush, but with decent access to the metro. Nearby is the middle school where my daughter Chloe attends classes. She's 13. She has light, shoulder-length hair and gray eyes, just like her mother. Her temperament is stubborn, but kind. She is all I have left after my wife's death. Sarah died 4 years ago. Cancer. Fast, brutal, and relentless. It took her from diagnosis to her last breath in 6 months. I was by her side every day, holding her hand, promising her I would take care of Chloe, that I would give her a normal life. Sarah knew about my past. I told her a year after we met, when I knew she was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. She listened calmly, without hysterics, without judgment. She just said, "The past is behind you. What matters is who you are now." And I became a father, a husband, an ordinary man. But the past never releases you completely. Before I became a driving instructor, I served for 8 years in the Special Operations Division of a highly classified national security agency. The official name is long and bureaucratic. In tight circles, we were simply called the Vanguard. It's one of the nation's most secret special units, created long ago for operations that are never reported in the news. The Vanguard handles counterterrorism operations, the elimination of high-value targets, hostage rescues, and the neutralization of threats to national security. We operated where typical SWAT or special forces couldn't manage: urban ops, covert penetration, silent elimination of targets. Every operator in the Vanguard went through selection tougher than any other unit. Out of 100 candidates, only 2 made it to the end. I was one of them. I joined the Vanguard when I was 23. Before that, I served in the 82nd Airborne, participated in 2 major overseas conflicts, was wounded 3 times, and earned a Silver Star. When my contract ended, I was ready to quit, tired of the war, the blood, the death. I wanted a regular life. But a week before my discharge, I was summoned to headquarters. 2 men in civilian clothes were waiting in the office. One introduced himself as Major Vince Sterling. The second didn't introduce himself at all. Sterling said, "Riley, your performance reports are excellent. You can think, act under pressure, and make quick decisions. We need men like you. We have a proposition for you to transfer to a different unit. The work is secret, dangerous, but prestigious. The pay is triple what the Army gives you. Your family will be well taken care of. Interested?" I asked what kind of unit it was. Sterling smiled. "If you agree, you'll find out. If you refuse, you'll forget this conversation ever happened." I agreed, not because of the money, but because at 23, I had no idea what to do in civilian life. War was the only thing I was truly good at. I was sent for 6 months of preparation. The training was hell. Physical exertion at the limit of human endurance, hand-to-hand combat, weapons proficiency, demolitions, medicine, languages, psychology. They taught us to survive in urban environments, blend in among civilians, and act autonomously without support. Out of 20 men who started training with me, only 4 finished. The rest were injured or quit. 1 broke his leg during a jump, 2 suffered psychological breakdowns. The others simply realized it wasn't for them. After training, we were assigned to teams. I was placed in Team 3. The team leader was Major Vincent Sterling, the same man who recruited me. My teammates were Leo, the sniper, a quiet man of few words who could hit a dime at 800 yards. Then there was Marcus, the sapper. He understood explosives better than any engineer. Vince, our call sign was Hawk, was a veteran who knew how to plan operations so that we went in and out undetected. My role on the team was universal. I handled close quarters combat, urban navigation, and driving any vehicle. I was also the second in command. If anything happened to Vince, I took over. In 8 years of service with the Vanguard, I participated in 23 operations. Most were domestic: hostage rescues, neutralization of militant cells, elimination of high-value targets. A few operations were conducted overseas, but I am not permitted to discuss those even now. Every operation was planned for months. Every detail was checked dozens of times. We worked so cleanly that our enemies didn't realize where death had come from. 21 of the 23 operations went perfectly. 0 casualties on our side. Targets eliminated or captured. Hostages freed. But 2 operations did not go as planned. In the first, we lost 1 man. Leo took a round to the abdomen during the raid of a building where terrorists were holding school children. We pulled him out, and the surgeon saved him, but he couldn't serve anymore. He was honorably discharged on medical grounds. The second failed operation was the reason I left the Vanguard. That was 6 years ago. The mission was to detain a group of arms dealers in Detroit. The tip came from our domestic partners. The group was planning to sell a large shipment of rifles and grenade launchers. Our task was to penetrate the warehouse, capture the dealers alive, and seize the weapons. The operation was planned for 3 weeks. We studied the target, the routes, the guard schedules. Everything looked standard. The warehouse was in an industrial zone on the outskirts of Detroit. Minimal security, 3 guards, 5 dealers. We went in silently, at night, professionally. The first 2 guards were neutralized without a sound. The third didn't even have time to raise the alarm. We entered the warehouse, but a surprise was waiting for us. The intelligence was incomplete. There were not 5 dealers, but 12. All were armed and ready for a fight. Someone had leaked information about our operation. A firefight erupted. We were outnumbered, but better trained. We took down 8 of them in the first 3 minutes, but one of the dealers, a tall man with a beard, turned out to be a former intelligence officer. He understood our tactics and began directing the others professionally. During the fight, we lost a man. Marcus triggered a booby trap the dealers had set up earlier. The explosion tore off his leg. He was bleeding out. I dragged him toward the exit, covering him with fire. Vince and the remaining operators covered our retreat. We got out of the building, loaded Marcus into the vehicle, and drove away under fire. Marcus died on the way to the hospital. He bled out. The medic did everything he could, but the wound was fatal. I sat next to him, holding his hand, watching the life leave my friend's eyes. Marcus's last words were, "Tell my mother I did my duty." After that operation, I submitted my resignation. Vince tried to talk me out of it. He said the team needed me, that specialists like me were rare. But I was firm. I was tired of the deaths, the blood, and the feeling that every mission could be my last. I wanted to live, not just survive. I wanted to start a family, raise kids, spend evenings at home, not in trenches or on rooftops. I was discharged 2 months later, officially for health reasons. In reality, they just let me go, and the paperwork was classified. All my operations became state secrets. Even my military record contains no information about my service in the Vanguard. It simply says, served in a special operations unit. No details. After leaving, I didn't know what to do for 6 months. I had money. I'd saved up a decent amount during my years of service. I rented an apartment in Northern Virginia, walked around the city, and watched people living ordinary lives, working, laughing, falling in love. I felt like I was from another planet. 6 months later, I met Sarah. She was a librarian at a local branch library. I went in by chance, looking for a book on post-traumatic stress. I wanted to understand what was happening to me, why I couldn't sleep at night, why loud noises made me jump. Sarah helped me find the right book, smiled, and asked if I wanted to sign up for a library card. I signed up. I started coming back every week, borrowing books, returning them, talking to Sarah. She was calm, kind, and intelligent. She didn't ask unnecessary questions, just listened when I wanted to talk, and was quiet when I needed silence. 3 months later, I asked her out to dinner. She accepted. We started dating. A year later, I proposed. Sarah said yes without hesitation. We got married simply at the courthouse, without a big celebration. The witnesses were her parents and my former teammate Vince, who had also retired by then. After the wedding, we celebrated in a small restaurant. We drank to happiness, to the future, and to leaving the war in the past. 2 years later, Chloe was born. Small, 7 pounds, with light hair and grey eyes. I held her in the hospital and realized this was the most important thing that had ever happened in my life. More important than medals, more important than missions, more important than everything. I got a job as a defensive driving instructor. The driving school owner, a former military man, knew my past superficially. He knew I served in special forces, but not the details. He hired me without question. The pay was average, but enough to live on. Sarah continued working at the library. We lived modestly but happily. Chloe grew up to be a smart, curious girl. She learned to read at 5, started piano lessons at 7, and got into drawing at 9. Sarah took her to clubs. I picked her up from school and helped with homework. An ordinary family, an ordinary life. Exactly what I dreamed of in those overseas foxholes. But when Chloe turned 9, Sarah became ill. First, just fatigue, then headaches, then fainting spells. Doctors struggled to diagnose her for a long time. Exams, tests, specialist consultations. After 3 months, they said, brain cancer, stage 4, inoperable. Prognosis, 3 to 6 months. Sarah lived for 5 months after the diagnosis. I took time off work, used up all my vacation and sick days, and was with her every day. We tried to shield Chloe from the worst of it. We told her mom was sick but would get better soon. She knew it wasn't true. Smart children always sense a lie, but she didn't ask questions. She just sat next to her mother, held her hand, and drew pictures to cheer her up. Sarah died at home, in her bed, surrounded by family. Her last words were for me. Take care of Chloe, give her a happy life. Promise me. I promised. She smiled weakly, closed her eyes, and stopped breathing. I sat next to her for another hour, holding her cooling hand, unable to believe she was gone. After the funeral, life turned into a mechanical routine. Wake up, make breakfast for Chloe, take her to school, go to work, pick her up from school, make dinner, help with homework, put her to bed. The same thing every day. I was functioning, but I wasn't living. Chloe also became withdrawn, stopped smiling, stopped drawing, stopped playing the piano. We were both like robots running a program. A year passed, then another, then 2 more. Slowly, the wound began to heal. Chloe started smiling again and returned to drawing. I began to taste food again, notice the weather, and enjoy small things. Life went on. By 13, Chloe had grown into a smart, independent girl. She was a good student, helped around the house, and never complained. We were a team. Every morning, we ate breakfast together, discussing our plans for the day. Every evening, we ate dinner, watched movies, and talked about everything under the sun. She told me about school, her friends, her dreams. I listened, gave advice, and tried to be not only a father, but also a friend. I had almost no friends left. Contact with my former teammates had faded. Vince moved to Boston, opened a private security agency, and called twice a year to check in. Leo had moved back to his family. He sent one letter, saying he got married and had a daughter. I hadn't heard from him since. I lived quietly, unnoticed, like an ordinary person. Work, home, daughter, nothing extra. I buried the past deep, trying not to remember, but sometimes the nightmares came at night. The warehouse in Detroit, the explosion, Marcus bleeding out, his last words. I would wake up in a cold sweat, go out onto the balcony, smoke a cigarette, watch the night over Northern Virginia, and wait for dawn. Today is Tuesday, October 23rd. The day started as usual. I woke up at 6 o'clock a.m. to my alarm, got up, worked out, push-ups, pull-ups on the bar I installed in the doorway. Old habits die hard. My body remembers years of training. Even at 40, I'm in good shape. I can run 6 miles without getting winded, do 50 pull-ups, and fight 2 opponents at once. That's not boasting, just stating a fact. Vanguard training turns a man into a machine. A machine doesn't break down easily. After the workout, I showered, shaved, and got dressed. Black jeans, a gray shirt, a dark blue sweater. Nothing bright. I'm used to blending into a crowd. I went to the kitchen, put the kettle on, got out bread, butter, cheese, and eggs. I made a cheese omelette, toasted bread, and brewed tea. I set the table. At 6:30, Chloe came into the kitchen, sleepy, wearing cat print pajamas, hair disheveled. She yawned, stretched, and sat down at the table. "Morning, Dad." "Good morning, sunshine. Sleep well?" "Normal. Had a strange dream that I was flying over the city like a bird." "That's a good dream. Means your soul is free." She smiled and started eating the omelette. I sat across from her, drinking tea and watching her. She's grown up now. No longer a little girl, but a teenager. She'll be 14 soon. First crushes, first conflicts, first adult questions will start soon. I was preparing for it, reading books on adolescent psychology, trying to be ready. After breakfast, Chloe went to get dressed. I cleared the table, washed the dishes, and checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. An ordinary day. At 7:30, we left the apartment. I walked Chloe to school. The school was a 10-minute walk from home. A regular public school, an old building but renovated inside, clean and bright. Chloe was in the 7th grade, mostly A's, sometimes a B. We reached the school. Students were crowding the entrance, laughing, talking, sharing news. Chloe turned around and waved to me. "Bye, Dad. See you this evening." "Bye, sunshine. Study well." She nodded and ran to her friends. I stood for a moment, watched her disappear into the crowd of students, then turned around and walked to work. The driving school was 20 minutes away by metro. I went underground, got on the train, rode to the right station, and came out onto the surface. The driving school was in a small 2-story building next to a shopping center. The sign read, "Apex Driving School. Safe driving for everyone." I went inside. The first floor had classrooms, computer simulators, and road rule displays. The second floor had administrative offices and the director's office. I worked on the first floor, conducting defensive driving classes, teaching how to brake on ice, how to recover from a skid, how to avoid collisions, and how to act in emergency situations. I had 3 groups a week. Each group had 10 people. Ordinary people who wanted to learn to drive safely, office workers, retirees, young people. All different, but the goal was the same. Don't get into an accident. My first class started at 9 a.m. I went to my office, opened the door, and went inside. The office was small, a desk, a chair, a cabinet with teaching materials, a whiteboard on the wall, a computer on the desk, a stack of notebooks, and a tea mug. I turned on the computer and checked my email. A few questions from students. I answered each one briefly and to the point. Then I looked at the day's schedule. 3 classes, morning, afternoon, evening. An hour break between classes. A typical workday. At 9 a.m., the students came into the classroom. 10 people, 6 men, 4 women, ages 20 to 50. They all sat at their desks, took out notebooks and pens, and prepared to listen. I stood by the whiteboard, greeted them, and introduced myself. Good morning. My name is Alex Riley. I'm your defensive driving instructor. Today, we'll be studying braking techniques on slippery surfaces. The topic is especially relevant as winter approaches. I started explaining the theory, talking about the tire grip coefficient on the road, the function of the anti-lock braking system, and the technique of pulse braking. The students listened carefully, nodded, and took notes. I tried to explain simply, without complex terms, so that everyone could understand. The class lasted 2 hours. After the theory, we went out to the practice track. The track was behind the driving school building, a small asphalt lot with markings, cones, and simulations of various road conditions. I put each student into a training car, explaining the proper way to sit behind the wheel, hold the hands, and use the pedals. Then we started the practical exercises. Acceleration, braking, stopping before a cone. First on dry asphalt, then on wet. I hosed down a section of the road, simulating rain. Students braked, some successfully, some not so much. One middle-aged woman couldn't stop the car in time, knocked over a cone, got scared, and started apologizing. I said calmly, "It's nothing serious. A cone isn't a person. It's better to learn here than to make a mistake on the road." She nodded, calmed down, and repeated the exercise. This time, she stopped in time. The class ended at 11 a.m. The students left, thanking me for the lesson. I went back to the office, drank tea, and had a sandwich I brought from home. I had an hour break before the next class. I took out my phone and called Chloe. I wanted to know how she was doing. The phone rang a few times, then she answered. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Sunshine. How's school?" "Normal. Math now, then literature." "Good. I'll pick you up after your last class this evening. At 5 p.m., as usual." "Yeah, Dad. See you." She hung up. I put the phone away, leaned back in my chair, and closed my eyes. I was tired. Not physically, but mentally. Every day was the same. Work, home, daughter, routine. But it was a good routine. Calm and predictable. That's what I wanted. No surprises, no dangers, no nightmares from the past. The second class started at noon. A new group, different students, but the same curriculum. Theory, practice, reviewing mistakes. I worked on autopilot, explaining, demonstrating, correcting. Students listened, nodded, and performed the exercises. The class ended at 2 p.m. Another break. An hour of free time. I went to the cafeteria in the next building. I ordered a bowl of soup, meatloaf with mashed potatoes, and a glass of juice. I sat down at a table in the corner. I ate slowly, thinking about the evening. I needed to buy groceries for dinner. The fridge was a little bare. Chloe loves ravioli. I'll make ravioli with sauce. After lunch, I returned to the office and checked my email again. One new email from the driving school director. A reminder about a faculty meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss new curricula. I wrote it down in my planner so I wouldn't forget. The third class started at 3 p.m. The last group today. After this, I could go home. The class went normally. Theory, practice, reviewing mistakes. By 5 p.m., everything was finished. I changed clothes, left the driving school building, got on the metro, and headed toward Chloe's school. We had agreed to meet at the main entrance at 5 p.m. I arrived 10 minutes before the scheduled time, stood by the entrance, and waited. Students poured out in crowds, loud, happy, celebrating the end of the school day. I looked at every face, searching for Chloe. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. She wasn't there. I took out my phone and called her. The phone was unavailable, turned off, or dead. I started to worry. Chloe was always punctual. If we agreed on 5 p.m., she would be out at 5 p.m. She might be a few minutes late, but not 15. I went into the school and approached the security desk. The guard, an older woman in her 60s with glasses, was kind and knew me by sight. "Good evening, Mr. Riley. Did you forget something?" "Good evening, ma'am. I'm waiting for my daughter, Chloe Riley, 7th grade. Has she come out yet?" The guard looked at the sign-out sheet where students were noted leaving. Chloe Riley signed out at 4:45. Here's the entry. She signed it herself. My heart sank. She left almost 20 minutes ago. Where did she go? Why didn't she meet me? Did she leave alone or with someone? Alone. I remember her. She waved to me, same as usual. I thanked her and went outside, looking around. The schoolyard was almost empty. A few parents were picking up the last children. Chloe was nowhere to be seen. I called her number again. Phone unavailable. I called the home phone. Maybe she was home? The phone rang 10 times. No answer. She wasn't home. I caught a cab and drove home. All the way, I looked out the window, trying to calm myself, trying to think rationally. Maybe someone she knew offered her a ride, and her phone died before she could text me. Soon she would get home, explain everything, and we would laugh at my panic. But a cold feeling inside told me otherwise. Something was wrong. Something bad. I arrived home at 6 p.m., went up to the 8th floor, and opened the apartment door. Quiet, dark, no one home. I turned on the light and walked through the rooms. Chloe was not there. Everything in her room was in place. The bed was made, textbooks on the desk, posters on the walls. A normal teenager's room. I sat down on the living room sofa, put my head in my hands, and tried to think. Where could she have gone? With whom? And why? The phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I snatched up the receiver, answering instantly. Hello. The voice on the other end was male, low, and calm. He spoke English with a slight accent. David Alexander Riley? Yes, this is me. Who is this? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that I have your daughter, Chloe. 13 years old, light hair, gray eyes. She's sitting right next to me now, alive and well. Do you want to check? My heart hammered. My hands shook. I gripped the phone so tightly, my knuckles went white. If you touched a single hair on her head, I will... Easy, Easy, Mr. Riley. No need for threats. You're an intelligent man, a former Special Forces officer. You know how these situations work. I don't want to hurt your daughter. I want only one thing. You give me back what belongs to me, and I'll give you back your daughter. A simple exchange. I don't know what you're talking about. What am I supposed to return? I don't have anything. The voice laughed. A cold, unpleasant laugh. Don't pretend, Mr. Riley. 6 years ago, you participated in an operation in Detroit, the weapons warehouse. Remember? Your team seized the warehouse, took the weapons, and arrested most of my men. But you didn't seize everything. A small black flash drive with the Dawn Foundation logo. It holds very valuable information. Databases, contacts, financial documents. One of your operators took it, and I want it back. I strained my memory. Detroit, the warehouse. The operation 6 years ago. The one where Marcus died. We seized weapons, documents, computers. Everything was handed over to the agency. A flash drive? I don't remember any flash drive. I didn't take any flash drive. Everything we seized was transferred up the chain of command. I don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe you didn't take it, but someone on your team did. Marcus, Leo, Vince, or you. One of the 4. Marcus is dead. Leo is gone. Vince is in Boston. You're here. I started with you because you're the closest. If you don't have the flash drive, find out who does. You have 24 hours. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., I will call again. You will tell me where the flash drive is. We'll meet, we'll exchange. You get your daughter. I get the flash drive. Simple. How do I know my daughter is alive? Let me talk to her. Of course. There was a rustle. Then a quiet, fearful, trembling girl's voice. Dad? Chloe, sunshine, is that you? Are you okay? Yes, Dad. I'm scared, but they're treating me okay. They said they'll let me go if you do what they want. Please, Dad, do what they ask. It's going to be okay, sunshine. I promise I'll get you soon. Hold on. I love you. I love you too, Dad. The voice broke off. The man spoke again. See, everything is fine. She's healthy, fed, warm, but that will only last 24 hours. If you don't have information about the flash drive in 24 hours, we'll start hurting her. Lightly at first, then harder, then very hard, until you bring us what we need. Understood? Rage surged through me. Cold, controlled, but lethal. I recognized the feeling. It had been buried for 6 years, but now it woke up again. The combat rage of a soldier whose family is threatened. I spoke quietly, very quietly. I clipped every word like a bullet. If you touch my daughter, if you cause her the slightest pain, I will find you. It doesn't matter where you hide. It doesn't matter how much security you have. I will find you, and I will kill you slowly, painfully. You will beg for death. This is not a threat. It is a promise. The man on the other end laughed again. Impressive words, Mr. Riley. I expected no less from a Vanguard instructor. But words won't save your daughter. Only action will. Find the flash drive. 24 hours. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., I will call. Be ready. Beep, beep, beep. He hung up. I sat on the sofa, clutching the phone. My breathing was heavy, my heart was pounding, and a storm was raging inside. But externally, there was calm. Control. Years of training had taught me to control my emotions even in the most extreme situations. 24 hours. I have 24 hours to find a flash drive that one of my teammates might have taken 6 years ago, or to find the people who kidnapped Chloe and take her back by force. I got up from the sofa, went to the bedroom, opened the closet, and moved a stack of clothes. Behind the clothes was a wooden panel. I pressed it in a specific spot. The panel opened like a hidden door. Inside was a metal box. I took out the box and opened the combination lock. Inside were items I hadn't touched in 6 years. A suppressed pistol, the Vanguard's specialized weapon, silent and deadly. 2 magazines with ammunition. A special forces knife, double-edged, 8-inch blade. An old model radio with encrypted frequencies. Documents under a false name. $10,000 cash. And photos of my team. Vince, Leo, Marcus, and me. Young, in uniform, with serious faces. I took the pistol and checked the mechanism. It worked flawlessly. The lubricant hadn't dried, the spring hadn't weakened. The weapon was stored properly. I inserted the magazine and racked the slide. A round entered the chamber. Ready. Then I took the radio, turned it on, and tuned it to the frequency my team used. The frequency was encrypted. Only the 4 of us knew it. I pressed the transmit button and spoke the code phrase. Father's code activated. Repeat. Father's code activated. All Team 3 operators, report immediately. Emergency. I released the button and waited for a reply. Silence. A minute passed. 2, 3. No one answered. Maybe they hadn't listened to that frequency in 6 years. Maybe the radios were discarded and forgotten. I repeated the message once more. Still silence. Then I took my phone and found Vince's number in my contacts. I hadn't called him in 6 months. I dialed the number. Long rings, then a familiar voice answered. Hoarse, tired, but firm. Riley. Long time no call. What's up? Vince. I need help. It's urgent. They kidnapped my daughter. Silence on the other end. Then Vince asked simply, who kidnapped her? I'm not sure, but it's connected to that operation in Detroit 6 years ago, the weapons warehouse. Remember? I remember. Marcus died there. The kidnappers claim one of us took a flash drive with secret intelligence. They demand I return it. They're giving me 24 hours. Do you remember any flash drive? Vince paused, recalling. A flash drive? No. We seized documents, computers, weapons, all handed over to the agency. I didn't take any flash drive. Maybe Marcus took it before he was hit? Or Leo? We need to contact Leo. Do you have his contacts? Yes. He's in Armenia. He opened a private security agency there. Give me 5 minutes. I'll call him, find out, then call you back. Thank you, Vince. Don't mention it. We're brothers in arms. Vanguard doesn't abandon its own. If you need help, tell me. I'll fly to Northern Virginia and help you get your daughter back. Not yet, but if the situation escalates, I'll call. Good. Wait for my call. Vince hung up. I put the phone on the table, sat on the bed, closed my eyes, and started thinking. If one of us took the flash drive, who was it? Marcus is dead. I can't ask him. Leo is in Armenia. Vince is contacting him now. That leaves me. Did I take it and forget? No, impossible. I remember every detail of that operation. Every shot, every movement, every item we seized. There was no flash drive. So either the kidnappers are mistaken or someone else took the flash drive. Maybe one of the arms dealers hid it before we arrived and now thinks we took it. The phone rang. It was Vince. Riley. I contacted Leo. He says he didn't take any flash drive. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about. I explained the situation. He's ready to help if needed. He can fly to Northern Virginia tomorrow morning. Tell him not yet, but keep his phone on. I'll call if I need him. I will. Riley, what are you going to do next? Find the people who kidnapped Chloe. I have a partial license plate number from the security camera. I'll try to run it through databases. If I find where they're holding my daughter, I'm going there. Alone. Don't be a fool. If you go alone, they could kill both you and your daughter. You need backup. Give me until morning. I'll drive to Northern Virginia, pick up 2 reliable guys from my agency. It's safer to act as a team of 3. I thought about it. Vince was right. Going alone was dangerous, but time was short. 24 hours. It would take Vince about 5 or 6 hours to get from Boston to Northern Virginia. Okay, Vince, come tomorrow morning. We'll meet and make a plan. But if I can't find their location by tomorrow evening, I'll go without a plan. I won't leave my daughter in their hands for a minute longer than necessary. I understand. I'm leaving now. I'll be in Northern Virginia by 8 o'clock a.m. I remember your apartment address. Wait for me. Vince hung up. I put the phone away and looked at the clock. 7 p.m. I have 23 hours until 6 p.m. tomorrow. I need to use every minute. I took the flash drive with the security camera footage, put it in my laptop, and watched the video several times. The license plate was barely visible, but I could make out something. M7V. The rest was blurred. Virginia region. The car was a black sedan, looked like a Mercedes E-Class. An expensive foreign car. To run the plate through the DMV database, I needed database access. I don't have that access, but I know a man who can help. I dialed the number of an old acquaintance, Frank Olson, a former detective who worked on organized crime. We met 10 years ago when our units ran a joint operation. I helped him back then, saved his life during a shootout. Since then, we've kept in touch, helping each other out. Olson answered after the 3rd ring. Riley, what brings you to call? Haven't heard from you in forever. Frank, I need help. It's urgent. Olson's voice became serious. I'm listening. My daughter has been kidnapped. I have a partial license plate number for the kidnapper's car. I need you to run it through the DMV database and find the owner. Damn, that's serious. Did you call the police? No. The kidnappers gave me 24 hours to meet their demands. If I involve the police, they might kill my daughter. I understand. Give me the number, and I'll run it. I dictated the partial number. M7V. The rest was unknown. Olson wrote it down. Not much to go on. There could be hundreds of plates like that in Virginia, but I'll try filtering by car model. You said a black sedan looks like a Mercedes E-Class. Yes. All right. Give me an hour. I'll call you as soon as I have something. Thanks, Frank. I owe you. No thanks needed. You saved my life once. I'm in your debt. Wait for the call. Olson hung up. I put the phone down, stood up, and paced the apartment. I couldn't sit still. The nervous tension demanded movement. I went out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette. I quit 3 years ago after Sarah's death, but now I found an old pack in a desk drawer, left over from those days. I inhaled deeply. The smoke burned my lungs. I looked out at the night over Northern Virginia, at the lights of the houses, at the cars below. Somewhere out there, in this enormous city, my daughter was scared, alone, in the hands of criminals. I clenched my fists. Rage pulsed in my veins. I wanted to scream, to break things, to kill, but I held back. Emotions are a soldier's enemy. I needed a clear head, a precise plan, and exact actions. The phone rang. Olson. Riley, I found something. 37 cars fit your parameters. Black Mercedes E-Class, plates starting with M7V. I filtered by year. Only newer cars from the last 3 years. That left 12. I'll email you the list of owners. Maybe one of them is familiar or suspicious. Perfect. Send it. Riley, be careful. If these are serious players, they might have connections, security, and weapons. Don't go in alone. It's better to involve official channels. I can't. The risk to my daughter is too great. I'll handle it myself. All right. But if you need help, call me. I can round up a couple of reliable guys. Off the books. Thanks. I'll manage for now. I'll call if needed. Olsen hung up. I went inside, opened my laptop, and checked my email. Olsen's email had arrived. I opened the attachment. A list of 12 names, addresses, and license plates. I started reviewing each name. The first 5 were ordinary citizens. Businessmen, lawyers, doctors. Nothing suspicious. The 6th name. Gregory Stone, 38. CEO of the Dawn Foundation. Office address, DC, Red Press Street, Building 15. The Dawn Foundation. The exact name the kidnapper mentioned on the phone. My heart began to beat faster. This was it. The coincidence was too precise to be random. I opened a browser and started searching for information about the Dawn Foundation. The official website looked respectable. A charitable organization, funding social projects, helping children's homes, supporting veterans, pictures of happy kids, reports on work accomplished, letters of gratitude. But I knew how such facades worked. Anything could be hidden behind a pretty sign. Money laundering, arms dealing, drugs, anything. I continued searching, going into the classified databases I had access to through old Vanguard connections. I entered the name, the Dawn Foundation. Results appeared in a few seconds. The Dawn Foundation was flagged in several money laundering cases, but all cases were closed due to insufficient evidence. The founder of the foundation, Victor Graham, 45, a former agency operative, discharged 7 years ago under unclear circumstances. Victor Graham. The name was familiar. Very familiar. I strained my memory. 7 years ago. The Vanguard. Graham served in the Vanguard. He was an operator in Team 3, the very team where I was second in command. We trained together, went on missions together. But then something happened that changed everything. 8 years ago. An operation overseas, a hostage rescue. Graham was with us. We stormed a building where militants were holding a US officer's family. The operation was successful. The militants were neutralized, the hostages freed. But after the mission, it turned out that Graham had taken money from one of the militants, $50,000 cash. He stole it, hid it, thinking no one would notice. But Vince noticed. He conducted an internal investigation and found the money in Graham's personal effects. Graham was kicked out of the Vanguard, discharged from the agency with a black mark. He swore revenge, saying we had betrayed him, that he deserved the money for his blood and service. After his discharge, Graham disappeared. We heard rumors he went into crime, working for organized groups, doing dark things, but there was no proof. And now he was back. He'd kidnapped my daughter, and he was demanding a flash drive that one of us supposedly took 6 years ago. I picked up the phone and called Vince again. Vince, I remembered. Victor Graham, our former teammate. Remember him? Vince swore. Graham, that son of a bitch. Of course I remember. Stealing on operations. We kicked him out. Is he connected to the kidnapping? Yes. He founded the Dawn Foundation, the same organization demanding the flash drive. The kidnappers are working for him. Damn it. This is personal revenge. He wants payback for being discharged. It looks that way. Vince, do you remember if there was a flash drive at all during that Detroit operation? Vince paused, thinking. Riley, I don't remember a flash drive, but I remember something else. After that operation, when we returned to base with Marcus's body, His personal effects were handed over to me as the commander. I was supposed to send them to his family. Among the items was a small, sealed box. Marcus asked me to deliver it to his mother personally if anything happened to him. I gave the box to his mother a month after the funeral. I don't know what was inside. I didn't open it. It was private. Where does Marcus's mother live? In Tulsa, Oklahoma. I last saw her 2 years ago on the anniversary of Marcus's death. She's healthy, lives alone. I have her address written down somewhere. Wait, let me find it. Vince stepped away from the phone. I could hear him shuffling papers. He returned a minute later. Write this down. Tulsa, Oklahoma, East Oakwood Avenue, Building 23, Apartment 5. Eleanor Jenkins, Marcus's mother. I have her phone number too, but I don't know if it's current. Should I dictate it? Dictate it. Vince read the number. I wrote it down. Thanks, Vince. I'll call her and ask about the box. Riley, be gentle. She's an elderly woman who lost her son. I don't want her to go through any more stress. I'll be careful. I promise. I hung up and dialed Eleanor Jenkins's number. Long rings. Then a woman's voice answered. Old, tired, but firm. Hello? Hello, Mrs. Jenkins. My name is Alex Riley. I served with your son, Marcus. We were comrades. Silence on the other end. Then a voice full of both pain and warmth. David, Marcus told me about you. He said you were a good commander, an honest man. Thank you for calling. It's been 6 years, but I still miss my son every day. I miss him too, Mrs. Jenkins. Marcus was the best EOD specialist I knew and a good friend. I apologize for calling so late, but I have an urgent matter. Vince Sterling gave you Marcus's personal effects after he died. Among the items was a sealed box. Marcus asked that it be given to you personally. Do you remember that box? I do. A small metal box. Marcus gave it to me before his last deployment. He said, if anything happens to me, don't open it. Just keep it. If I come back, I'll take it back myself. He didn't come back. I've kept the box until now. I haven't opened it, just as he asked. My heart pounded faster. Mrs. Jenkins, that box is very important. People have kidnapped my daughter because of it. They are demanding what is inside. Could you please open the box and see what's in there? Kidnapped your daughter? Oh my God. Of course. Please wait a minute. I heard steps, a rustle, the sound of a cabinet opening. Then the woman returned to the phone. I'm opening the box. Inside is a small black flash drive. It has a logo on it. Some kind of dawn is drawn, a sun with rays. And there's also a note from Marcus, written in his handwriting. Please read it. Mrs. Jenkins read slowly, struggling to decipher her son's handwriting. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't come back. This flash drive is very important. It has information about a criminal organization that deals weapons and sells them to terrorists. I took the flash drive during the last operation. I wanted to hand it over to the agency, but I didn't get the chance. If anything happens to me, give the flash drive to Alex Riley or Vince Sterling. They'll know what to do with it. I love you, Mom. Your son, Marcus. Silence. I closed my eyes and clenched my fists. Marcus took the flash drive, was going to give it to us, but died too soon. And his mother had kept the box for 6 years, not knowing what was inside. Mrs. Jenkins, I desperately need that flash drive. Without it, I can't get my daughter back. Could you send it to me via Rush Courier Service? Of course, David. But a courier from Tulsa to Northern Virginia won't arrive until tomorrow evening. That's too long. I looked at the clock. 8 p.m. Until 6 p.m. tomorrow. 22 hours left. The courier wouldn't make it. Unfortunately, it's too long. I need the flash drive by 6 p.m. Tomorrow, at the latest. Then come yourself. I'll give you the flash drive in person. The flight from DC to Tulsa is about 2.5 hours. Can you make it? I quickly calculated. I opened the airline website on my phone and checked the schedule. The nearest flight to Tulsa leaves at midnight. Arrival in Tulsa at 2:30 a.m. local time. The return flight is at 8:00 a.m. Arrival in DC at 10:30 a.m. I could make it. I'd leave at midnight, get the flash drive, and return in the morning. I'd be back in Northern Virginia with the flash drive by midday. That would leave time to prepare for the exchange. Mrs. Jenkins, I'm flying out at midnight. I'll be at your place around 3:00 a.m. Is that too late? Not too late for me. I don't sleep well at night. I'll wait for you, David. You remember the address? I wrote it down. East Oakwood Avenue, Building 23, Apartment 5. Correct. I'll be waiting. She hung up. I put the phone down and looked at the clock. 8 p.m. 4 hours until my flight. I needed to get ready, pack, and get to the airport. I opened the metal box again and took out the pistol, knife, cash, and false documents. The documents were old, but valid. A driver's license and bank card under the name Andrew Selby. A good cover story I used for civilian operations. I couldn't take a weapon on the plane. I'd only pass through security with the documents and cash. I'd have to operate in Tulsa without a weapon. But if I needed protection, I could buy something there. Getting a gun in some parts of the country is easier than in Northern Virginia. I changed into regular clothes, dark jeans, a black jacket, sneakers. I took a small backpack and put the documents, cash, phone, charger, and a change of clothes inside. I checked everything one last time. Ready. I called Vince. Vince, I have the flash drive. I'm flying there at midnight. I'll get it and be back in the morning. I'll be in Northern Virginia by midday. Excellent. I'll be there by 8 a.m. too. I'm waiting at your apartment. I brought Jake and Ben from the agency. Reliable, vetted guys. Come straight here when you land. We'll discuss the exchange plan. Deal? Deal. See you later. I hung up, grabbed my backpack, left the apartment, locked the door with all the deadbolts, and went down to the first floor and outside. A cold October evening. Wind and drizzling rain. I hailed a cab and gave the address for the nearest airport. The drive took an hour. Traffic, slow movement, stoplights. I sat in the back seat, looking out the window, thinking about Chloe. Where was she now? What were they doing to her? Was she scared? Crying? I clenched my fists. Hold on, sunshine. I'll get you soon. I promise. I arrived at the airport at 9 p.m. I checked in for the flight using the Selby passport. No questions. Everything was smooth. I checked my backpack, went through security. The metal detector didn't beep. I had no weapons on me. I sat in the waiting area, bought coffee from a machine, drank slowly, and watched the departure board. The flight to Tulsa was delayed 20 minutes. Departure at 12:20 a.m. instead of midnight. No problem. I still had time. At 12:20 a.m., boarding was announced. I stood up, went to the gate, boarded the bus that took passengers to the plane, walked up the steps, and went into the cabin. A window seat, row 12. I sat down, fastened my seatbelt, and closed my eyes. The plane took off 10 minutes later, reached cruising altitude, and settled on course. I looked out the window at DC at night. Below me were the lights of houses, streets, and cars. A huge city where my daughter was lost. The flight was quiet. 2.5 hours in the air. I didn't sleep. I just sat, thought, and planned. What to do after returning to Northern Virginia. How to handle the exchange. Graham isn't stupid. He won't just give up Chloe. He'll set a trap, try to kill me after getting the flash drive. I need a plan to protect myself and my daughter. The plane landed in Tulsa at 2:45 a.m. local time. An hour later than planned, but not critical yet. I got off the plane, went through the airport building, grabbed my backpack from the baggage carousel, and went outside. Nighttime Tulsa greeted me with silence. The airport was small, on the edge of the city. Few people, few cars. I hailed a cab and gave the address. East Oakwood Avenue, Building 23. The driver, a man in his 50s with a grey beard, nodded silently and drove off. The drive took 20 minutes. The city was asleep, the streets empty. Scattered streetlights lit the road. We drove through downtown, then into a residential area, stopping at a 5-story apartment building. I paid the driver, got out of the car, and looked at the building. The windows were dark, except for one on the second floor where a light was on. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, found apartment 5, and knocked on the door. After a few seconds, the door opened. Standing on the threshold was an elderly woman in her 70s. Grey hair pulled back in a bun, dark eyes, a tired face, but a kind smile. David? Yes, Mrs. Jenkins, thank you for waiting. Please, let me in. It's cold outside. I entered the apartment. A small entryway, old furniture, a warm scent of tea and fresh baking. Cozy, warm, and homey. Mrs. Jenkins led me to the living room and seated me at the table. Would you like tea? I just brewed some. I'd love some. Thank you. She poured tea into a mug and placed a plate of fresh, still hot pastries on the table. Eat, eat. It's a long journey. You must be hungry. I thanked her and began to eat. The pastries were delicious, homemade, and made with love. Mrs. Jenkins sat across from me, watching me intently. You look like Marcus. The same serious, tired, but kind eyes. He was a good man, too. He served his country, protected people, and died a hero. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Marcus was one of the best. I wish I could have saved him then. Don't blame yourself, David. That was his fate. God took him. Now he's in heaven, watching over us, protecting us. She stood up, went to a cabinet, took out the metal box, and placed it on the table in front of me. Here, the flash drive is inside, along with the note. Be sure to take it. Marcus wanted you to have this. I hope it helps you get your daughter back. I took the box and opened it. Inside was indeed a small black flash drive with a logo in the shape of a sun with rays. The Dawn Foundation. The one. I took the flash drive and put it in my jacket pocket. Then I picked up the note and read it again. Marcus's handwriting, familiar and neat. Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. You have no idea how important this is. You may have saved my daughter's life. Marcus. He loved children and dreamed of having his own. He didn't get the chance. But I'm glad his last act helped save a child. I finished my tea, thanked her for the hospitality, and prepared to leave. Mrs. Jenkins walked me to the door and hugged me goodbye. Take care of yourself and your daughter, David. May God protect you both. Thank you. You take care too. I went outside. Night, silence, cold wind. I hailed a cab and returned to the airport. The return flight was at 8:00 a.m. I had 5 hours until departure. I sat in the waiting area, bought more coffee, took out my phone, and called Vince. Vince, I have the flash drive. I'm flying back at 8:00 a.m. I'll be in Northern Virginia by midday. Excellent. I'll be there by 8:00 a.m. too. I'm waiting at your apartment. I brought Jake and Ben from the agency. Reliable, vetted guys. Come straight here when you land. We'll discuss the exchange plan. Deal? Deal. See you later. I hung up, put the phone away, and leaned back in my chair. For the first time in the last 24 hours, I felt something like relief. I had the flash drive. I had something to offer Graham in exchange for Chloe. Now the main thing was to execute the exchange so that both of us would walk away alive. The hours dragged slowly. I sat in the waiting area, watching the sunrise through the airport's huge windows. The sky slowly lightened. From black, it turned blue, then orange, then light blue. A new day was beginning. At 7:30, boarding for the flight to DC was announced. I stood up, went to the gate, boarded the bus that took passengers to the plane, walked up the steps, and took my seat. This time, in the middle of the cabin, on the aisle. The plane took off at 8:05 a.m., reached cruising altitude, and settled on course. The flight went faster than the night one. I looked out the window, thinking about the upcoming exchange. Graham would set the meeting place, most likely somewhere deserted, where he would have the advantage. An abandoned building, a wasteland, a forest. He would bring armed men, ready to kill me after getting the flash drive. But I would have backup too. Vince and his 2 men, experienced operators, former special forces. We could fight back. The main thing was saving Chloe. Everything else was secondary. The plane landed in Northern Virginia at 10:30 a.m. local time. I got off the plane, walked through the airport, and took the express train to the city. The train took 40 minutes. I arrived at the station, transferred to the metro, rode to my local station, and came out onto the surface. 11:30 a.m. I had 6 hours until the scheduled 600 km, so 1 p.m. Exchange time. Enough time to prepare. I walked the rest of the way home, up to the 8th floor. 3 men were standing at the apartment door. I recognized Vince immediately. Tall, broad-shouldered, short gray hair, a hard face, cold gray eyes. He wore a dark jacket, jeans, and heavy boots. Next to him were 2 younger men. One, in his 30s, was stocky with a short haircut and a scar on his cheek. That was Jake. The second, in his 40s, was tall and lean with an alert gaze. That was Ben. Vince saw me, stepped forward, and held out his hand. We shook hands firmly, man to man. Riley, good to see you. It's been too long. You too, Vince. Thanks for coming. Don't mention it. We're brothers in arms. Let me introduce the guys. This is Jake. He nodded at the stocky one. Former SWAT, master of hand-to-hand, excellent shot. And this is Ben. He nodded at the lean one. Former military intelligence, specialist in urban navigation and tactics. Both are reliable and vetted. I shook hands with Jake and Ben, thanking them for their help. Come into the apartment. We'll discuss the plan. I opened the door and we went inside. I led them to the living room and offered them seats. Vince sat on the sofa, Jake and Ben took chairs. I remained standing. I have the flash drive, I said, taking it out of my pocket and putting it on the table. I picked it up in Tulsa this morning. Graham will call at 6 p.m. to set the exchange location. We need to be ready for anything. Vince picked up the flash drive, turned it over in his hands, and looked at the logo. The Dawn Foundation. So Marcus took it during that operation. Smart kid. He realized the information was important and decided to keep it safe. Too bad he didn't get to give it to us while he was alive. He planned to. He wrote about it in the note to his mother, but he died too soon. Vince put the flash drive back on the table. What's on it? I don't know. I haven't checked. But the kidnappers claim it contains databases, contacts, and financial documents of their criminal organization. Enough to put Graham and his whole crew away for years. Then this flash drive is a matter of life and death for him, He won't stop at anything to get it back, and he'll kill anyone who gets in his way. Exactly. That's why we need a clear plan. Graham is no fool. He was a Vanguard operator. He knows our tactics, our methods. He's expecting a trap. He'll be ready. Ben, the lean intelligence man, leaned forward. Mr. Riley, tell us everything you know about Graham. His strengths, weaknesses, and typical modus operandi. It will help us plan the operation. I sat in the chair opposite them and began to recount. Victor Graham, 45 years old, served in the Vanguard for 7 years. Specializes in urban tactics, hand-to-hand, and interrogations. A skilled planner, cold-blooded and ruthless, doesn't hesitate to kill if necessary. Weak side, overconfidence. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. That could work against him. Jake, the stocky operator, asked, "How many men might he have?" I don't know exactly, but the Dawn Foundation is an official organization. They have an office and employees. If Graham is using them as a front for crime, he could have anywhere from 5 to 20 men, armed and trained. Against 4 of us, Ben commented. Not bad odds, if we act smart. Vince took a tablet from his jacket pocket and opened a map of Northern Virginia. Graham will set the exchange point somewhere outside the city. Deserted, where no one will interfere. An abandoned building, an industrial park, a forest. We need to be ready for any scenario. I nodded. I propose the following. When Graham calls, I'll agree to his terms. I'll go to the exchange point alone as he'll demand. But the 3 of you will be nearby, concealed. You'll take positions around the perimeter, observe, and provide cover. If anything goes wrong, you intervene. It's risky, Vince said. Graham might kill you immediately after getting the flash drive. He might, but I'll have insurance. I'll tell him the flash drive is not the only copy, that I made backups and sent them to different locations. If anything happens to me or Chloe, the copies will go to the FBI, the Attorney General, and the media. That will force him to let us go alive. Ben considered this. Not a bad bluff, but what if he doesn't believe it? Then we'll have to use force. That's why you need to be ready to intervene at any moment. Jake slapped his thigh, where the outline of a holster was visible under his jacket. We are ready. We each have a pistol, extra magazines, and knives. Ben brought a long gun in case we need long-range support. Excellent, I said. Now, we wait for the call. We sat in the living room, drinking coffee and discussing details. Vince talked about his security agency in Boston, the contracts, the work. Jake and Ben were mostly silent, listening, occasionally interjecting brief comments. I looked at the clock every 5 minutes. Time dragged by painfully slowly. Noon, 1 o'clock p.m., 2, 3, 4, 5. Finally, at 10 minutes to 6, the phone rang. Unfamiliar number, but I knew who was calling. I signaled the others to be quiet, answered, and put it on speakerphone. Hello? Graham's voice was low and calm, with his slight accent. David Riley. 24 hours have passed. I hope you have what I need. I do. I have the flash drive. I'm ready to exchange it for my daughter. Excellent. A smart man. I appreciate that. Write down the address. Abandoned furniture factory, Loudoun County, near the town of South Riding. Industrial zone, building number 3. Be there in 1 hour, exactly 7 p.m. You come alone. No weapons, no police. If I see even a hint of a trap, your daughter dies. Understood? Understood, but I have a condition. What condition? The flash drive I'm bringing is not the original. I made copies and sent them to reliable people. If anything happens to me or my daughter, the copies will go to the FBI, the Attorney General, and the media. That will force him to let us go alive. Silence on the other end. Then Graham laughed. Good bluff, Riley. I'm not sure you're bluffing. Perhaps you actually made copies. Fine. I'll let you go alive, but only after I check the flash drive. If it truly contains the required information, you get your daughter back. If you try to fool me, give me a blank drive. You both die. Agreed? Agreed. I'll be there in an hour. Don't be late. Graham hung up. I put the phone on the table and looked at Vince. Abandoned factory in South Riding. Do you know the place? Vince opened the map on his tablet and found the location. There it is, Loudoun County, 20 miles outside DC. There is indeed an industrial zone there. A few abandoned buildings, old factories, perfect for an ambush. Deserted, far from homes, no one will hear gunshots. Ben, the lean intelligence man, leaned toward the tablet screen, studying the map. Building number 3. There it is, a large 3-story building, surrounded by wasteland. Several approaches. North side has a wooded area. We can approach unseen from there. South side has the road. That's where Alex will drive in. East and west are open space. We'll take our positions there. Jake nodded. I'll go north, through the woods. I'll get close to the building. I'll be ready to breach if necessary. Ben will take a long-range position to the east. From there, he can see the entrances to the building. Vince will be to the west, covering the other sector. Vince looked at me. You'll drive in from the south on the road, as agreed. You'll go inside, meet Graham, and conduct the exchange. We'll observe through optics and listen via radio. You'll have a microphone hidden in your clothes. Say the code word if you need help. What's the code word? Vanguard. Say Vanguard, and we breach. I nodded. Understood. Give me the mic. I'll leave the pistol here. Graham will search me. He shouldn't find anything suspicious. Ben took a tiny button-sized microphone and a receiver from his backpack. This is the latest tech. The microphone clips under your shirt on your chest. The receiver goes in your ear. It's almost invisible. Works up to a mile away. We'll hear every word you say. You'll hear us. I took the microphone, clipped it under my shirt, and put the receiver in my ear. Ben turned on the comms and checked. Can you hear me, Alex? The voice was clear, as if Ben were standing next to me. Loud and clear. Good. The comms work. I took off my holster with the pistol, put it on the table, and left the knife too. Graham would search me. If he found a weapon, everything would fall apart. Better to go clean. Vince stood up, walked over to me, and put a hand on my shoulder. Riley, be careful. Graham is dangerous. Don't trust him for a second. At the slightest threat, call us. We'll breach and pull you and your daughter out. Thanks, Vince. I know I can count on you. We left the apartment, went down to the first floor, and stepped outside. Vince, Jake, and Ben got into a black SUV parked by the curb. I got into my old Chevy sedan, parked in the lot. I started the engine and drove out of the lot. The drive to South Riding took 40 minutes. I drove on the highway, then turned onto a side road, passed through a few small towns, and finally reached the industrial zone. Abandoned buildings, rusty gates, broken asphalt. The place was indeed deserted, perfect for a secret meeting. I found building number 3, a 3-story brick structure. Windows were broken out, the roof partially collapsed. A black car was parked nearby, the same one I saw on the school security footage. A Mercedes E-Class, tinted windows. I parked 50 yards from the building, turned off the engine, and got out of the car. It was a cold evening, windy and getting dark fast. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes to 7, right on time. The receiver in my ear crackled. Ben's voice. Alex, we're in position. I see you through my scope. Jake is in the woods, ready to breach. Vince is on the west side. Everything is controlled. Go in. Understood. Moving. I walked toward the building slowly, calmly, hands at my sides. I didn't want to look aggressive. I reached the entrance. The huge metal door was ajar. I walked inside. It was dark inside. It smelled of dampness, mold, and old metal. The floor was covered with trash, brick fragments, and rusty machine parts. I walked down the corridor. The light from my phone's flashlight lit the way. I reached a large room. It was a former factory floor. High ceilings, columns, and remnants of machinery. In the center of the room stood a man, tall and broad-shouldered, in his 40s, with short dark hair, a hard face, and cold brown eyes. Victor Graham. I recognized him immediately, even though we hadn't seen each other in 8 years. Next to him were 4 other men. All were armed. Assault rifles in their hands, dressed in dark clothes, with harsh faces. And a few feet away from them, sitting on a chair, was Chloe. Her hands were tied behind her back, her mouth was covered with duct tape, and her eyes were wide with fear. But she was alive and unharmed. My heart clenched. I wanted to rush to her, hug her, and tell her everything would be okay. But I restrained myself. Not yet. Graham smiled when he saw me. A cold, unpleasant smile. Riley. Long time no see. The last time was, what, 8 years ago, when you and your commander Sterling kicked me out of the Vanguard like a dog? You stole money on a mission, Graham. You violated your oath. You deserved to be discharged. Deserved it? Graham laughed. I risked my life every day, watched my friends die, and the government paid peanuts. That $50,000 was my compensation. Well-earned compensation. You betrayed the Brotherhood for money, the lowest thing a soldier can do. Graham stopped smiling. His eyes became hard, angry. Enough with the morals, Riley. I didn't call you here to talk about honor. Do you have the flash drive? I took the flash drive from my pocket and showed it to him. Here it is. Throw it on the floor, halfway between us. I tossed the flash drive. It landed on the concrete floor with a small clink. One of Graham's men walked over, picked up the flash drive, and took it to his boss. Graham took the flash drive, turned it over in his hands, and looked at the logo. The Dawn Foundation. Looks like the original, but I need to check. He took a laptop from his pocket, opened it, inserted the flash drive, and waited a few seconds while the computer read the data. Then he nodded in satisfaction. It's all here. Databases, contacts, financial documents. Excellent. You fulfilled your end of the bargain, Riley. Now I'll fulfill mine. He nodded to one of his men. The man walked over to Chloe, untied her hands, and removed the duct tape from her mouth. Chloe jumped up from the chair and ran to me. I caught her, hugged her tightly, and pressed her against my chest. Dad, she sobbed, burying her face in my shoulder. I was so scared. It's okay, sunshine. It's all over. I'm here. We're going home. I raised my head and looked at Graham. We're free. Graham smirked. Free. But before you leave, I want to tell you something. You mentioned copies of the flash drive, that you supposedly sent them to different locations. I don't believe you. I think you were bluffing. But just in case, I warn you. If even one copy surfaces, if the information reaches the authorities, I will find you and your daughter and kill you slowly. Understood? I looked him in the eyes, unblinking. Understood. There are no copies. I gave you everything there was. We're even. Good. Then get out of here, and don't let me see your face again. I turned, holding Chloe's hand, and walked toward the exit. We walked a few steps. I almost relaxed, thinking it was all over safely, but then I heard a familiar sound. The metallic clack of an assault rifle being charged. I spun around instantly. Graham had raised his rifle and pointed it at me. Too bad, Riley. You were a good operator, but I can't let you live. You know too much. You're too dangerous. Time slowed down. I shoved Chloe aside behind a support column and yelled, "Vanguard!" Graham pulled the trigger. A burst of fire missed us. Bullets slammed into the wall behind my back. I dropped to the floor and rolled behind the nearest column. In the next second, the building's windows shattered. 3 shots rang out almost simultaneously. Ben's long gun. 2 of Graham's men dropped, hit in the head. Then Jake burst into the room, rifle ready, firing short bursts. Graham's 3rd man went down. Vince entered from the other side, also firing. The 4th man tried to take cover, but Vince's bullet found him in the chest. He fell. Graham was left alone. He spun around and ran toward the emergency exit, firing wildly as he went. The bullets flew erratically, without aim. I got up and chased him. I couldn't let him get away. This man kidnapped my daughter, threatened to kill her. He had to answer for it. Graham burst out of the building and ran toward his car. I caught up to him 10 yards from the car, jumped, and tackled him to the ground. We fell onto the wet asphalt and tumbled. Graham drove his elbow into my face. Pain exploded in my nose. I retaliated with a punch to his jaw. Graham rolled away, jumped to his feet, and pulled a knife from his belt. A long blade, an army knife. He lunged at me, trying to stab me. I dodged, grabbed his wrist, and twisted his arm. The knife dropped. Graham kneed me in the stomach. I doubled over in pain, but I didn't let go of his arm. I pulled him toward me and threw him over my hip. Graham slammed onto his back. I fell on top of him and clamped my hand around his throat. Graham gasped, struggling to break free, kicking and clawing at my face, but I held him tight. All the years of training, all the years in the Vanguard, all the rage that had accumulated over the last 24 hours, poured into that chokehold. "You took my daughter," I hissed through clenched teeth. "You thought you could threaten my family and walk away unpunished. You were wrong." Graham choked, his face turning purple, his eyes bulging. A few more seconds, and he would lose consciousness. Another minute, and he would die. But then I heard Chloe's voice behind me. Quiet, scared. "Dad, stop. Please, don't kill him. I don't want you to be a killer." I froze. I looked over my shoulder. Chloe was standing a few feet away. Vince held her shoulders so she wouldn't come closer. My daughter's eyes were full of tears, her face pale. I looked at Graham beneath me. His face was almost purple, his breathing almost stopped. A few more seconds, and it would be over. But Chloe was right. If I killed him now, I would be a murderer. Not a soldier following orders on a mission, but a killer who strangled a man with his bare hands out of revenge. I released my fingers. Graham coughed, desperately sucking in air, rolling onto his side, clutching his throat. I stood up and backed away from him. Vince walked over, pulled Graham up by the collar, slapped handcuffs on him, took out his phone, and made a call. "Frank, this is Vince. I have a present for you. Victor Graham, former agency operative, head of a criminal organization. Kidnapping, extortion, arms dealing. All the evidence is on a flash drive, plus 4 bodies of his men. Come to the address I'm sending you. You can pick him up." Vince hung up and looked at me. "Frank will be here in 20 minutes. He'll take Graham and process everything officially. With the evidence on the flash drive, they'll give him at least 20 years. He'll rot in prison." I nodded, walked over to Chloe and hugged her. She clung to me, quietly crying. "It's all right, sunshine. It's over. We're going home." Frank Olson arrived 15 minutes later with a team of detectives. They took Graham, surveyed the scene, photographed the bodies, and took statements. I told them everything. The kidnapping of my daughter, the demand for the flash drive, the exchange, and the attempted murder. Olson took notes and nodded. "Everything is clear. Criminal charges will be filed on several counts. Graham won't get out of prison for the rest of his life. You acted in self-defense, saving your daughter. You're in the clear. I was released an hour later. Vince, Jake, and Ben also gave statements and were released. We got into our cars and drove back to Northern Virginia. I drove Chloe home. She sat in the front seat, silent, looking out the window. I didn't know what to say. I just drove, occasionally glancing at her, checking that she was nearby, that she was alive, that it really was over. We arrived home at 9:00 p.m., went up to the 8th floor, and entered the apartment. Chloe immediately went to her room and closed the door. I didn't bother her. I understood she needed time to process everything that had happened. Vince, Jake, and Ben stayed in the living room, drinking tea and talking quietly. I sat with them, drinking tea in silence. Vince looked at me intently. "How are you, Riley?" "Tired, but my daughter is alive. That's all that matters." "You're a good father. Not everyone would go to those lengths for their child." "Every normal father would." Vince smiled. "Maybe, but not everyone could. You handled it like the old days. The vanguard is not forgotten." I looked at my hands. Knuckles scraped, cuts, bruises. A soldier's hands. Hands that know how to kill. But today, those hands saved my daughter's life. The only thing I had left. "Thank you for coming," I said to Vince, Jake, and Ben. "Without you, I couldn't have done it." "No problem, Alex," Vince replied. "We're brothers in arms. The vanguard doesn't abandon its own. If you ever need help again, call us. We'll come." They finished their tea and prepared to leave. I walked them to the door and shook hands with each of them. Vince hugged me goodbye. "Take care of your daughter, Riley, and take care of yourself. Life goes on." "I know. Thanks, Vince." They left. I closed the door and went to Chloe's room, knocking gently. "Chloe, can I come in?" "Yes, Dad." I opened the door and went inside. Chloe was lying on the bed, her face buried in a pillow. I sat down next to her and put my hand on her shoulder. "How are you?" "I don't know, Dad. I'm still scared." "That's normal. You went through something terrible, but now it's over. That man is in prison. He will never hurt you again." Chloe turned and looked at me with red, tear-filled eyes. "Dad, I saw you fight. I saw that man shoot, and how you almost strangled him. It was terrifying. I've never seen you like that." I sighed and stroked her hair. "I'm sorry you had to see that. I didn't want you to. But sometimes you have to do scary things to protect the people you love. Did you do things like that before too? In the war?" I paused. I had never told Chloe about my past. She only knew I served in the army, not the details. "Yes, Sunshine. I served in a special unit. We protected the country, saved people, and fought bad guys. Sometimes we had to use force, but always to protect the innocent." "Did you kill people?" A direct child's question. No beating around the bush. I could have lied, said no. But Chloe deserved the truth. "Yes, I did. But only those who were ready to kill others. Terrorists, criminals, enemies. Never the innocent. Never without a reason." Chloe thought about it, processing the information. That must be hard to live with. It is very hard. Every night I see their faces in my dreams. Every day I remember what I did, but I know I did the right thing. Because of me and people like me, many people are still alive. Children returned to their parents, and families stayed whole. That helps me live. Chloe hugged me tightly. "I love you, Dad. Thank you for saving me. You're the best father in the world." My throat tightened with emotion. I hugged her back, pressing her close. "I love you too, Sunshine. More than anything in the world. I'll never let anyone hurt you. I promise." We sat like that for a few minutes, hugging in silence. Then Chloe yawned. I'm really tired, Dad. Can I sleep now? Of course. Rest. You don't have to go to school tomorrow. I'll let you rest and recover. Thanks. I covered her with a blanket, kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and left the room, closing the door softly. I went to my bedroom, lay on the bed without undressing, and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the past 2 days. The kidnapping, the chase for the flash drive, the flight to Tulsa, the exchange, the fight with Graham. It was all like the old days, like a Vanguard mission. But this wasn't a mission. This was my life, my daughter, my family. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. Images swirled in my head. Graham's face as I squeezed his throat, the fear in Chloe's eyes, the sound of the shots, the smell of blood. The phone rang. Olsen. Riley, I wanted to let you know. Graham confessed. He cracked completely, named all his men, the whole network. We've already started arrests. We'll have everyone by morning. The Dawn Foundation will be liquidated. Case closed. Good. Thanks for keeping me informed. No problem. You helped us uncover a major criminal organization. We should be thanking you. If you need anything else, call. Thanks, Frank. I hung up and put the phone on the nightstand. So it really was over. Graham was in prison, his men arrested, and the threat neutralized. Life could return to normal. I got out of bed, went to the window, and looked at Northern Virginia at night. The city was sleeping. Millions of people in their apartments, in their beds, unaware that a drama had unfolded nearby. Lives were saved, and wars were fought. I remembered Sarah's words from years ago. The past is behind you. What matters is who you are now. I was a father, an instructor, an ordinary man. But when needed, I became a soldier again. A Vanguard instructor. A machine for protecting what was dear to me. And I didn't regret it. A week later, life returned to its usual routine. Chloe went back to school. I returned to work at the driving school. Every day became ordinary again. Breakfast, school, work, dinner, evening at home. But something had changed. Chloe was older, more serious. She looked at me differently, with respect, with understanding. She knew now who her father was and what he was capable of doing for her. And I felt alive again. For 6 years after Sarah's death, I existed, but I didn't live. I just performed functions mechanically. But those 2 days, fighting for my daughter's life, brought back my sense of purpose. They reminded me that I wasn't just a cog in the machine. I was a father, a protector, a warrior when needed. One evening, 2 weeks after those events, I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea and reading the paper. Chloe was doing homework in her room. A typical weeknight. The phone rang. Vince. Riley, how are things? Good, Vince. Life is back to normal. Daughter's in school. I'm at work. Everything's quiet. Glad to hear it. I'm calling about business. Remember I told you I have a security agency in Boston? I remember. I have a proposition. I need a tactical training instructor to train the agency staff, new recruits, former military and police, but without special operations experience. You're the perfect fit. The pay is triple what the driving school pays. We'll provide housing and enroll your daughter in a good school. Think about it. I considered it. The offer was tempting. More money, interesting work, a chance to use my skills. But moving to another city, a new life, breaking away from routine. Vince, thanks for the offer, but I want to stay in Northern Virginia. Sarah's grave is here. I want Chloe to be able to visit the cemetery and remember her mom. This is our home. I understand. Then here's another option. I'll open a branch of the agency in Northern Virginia. You'll be the director. Build a team, train them, run the operations. The job is the same as in Boston, but you don't have to move. Does that work? I smiled. Vince didn't give up. He offered options until he found one that fit. It works, but I need time to think about it, to talk to my daughter. It's a big decision. Of course, think it over. A month or two. No rush. When you decide, call me. The offer stands. Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it. I hung up and pondered. Work at a security agency, a chance to use my skills, earn more, and provide a better life for Chloe. But also the risk. Security work is dangerous. There could be shootings, conflicts, and threats. I could put my daughter in danger again. I went to Chloe's room and knocked softly. Chloe, can I talk to you? Sure, Dad. Come in. I went in and sat on the edge of the bed. Chloe put down her textbook and looked at me intently. What's wrong? Nothing bad. I just want your advice. I was offered a new job as the director of a security agency branch. The pay is better, the work is interesting, but there are risks. Sometimes I'll have to participate in dangerous operations. What do you think? Chloe thought about it, frowning slightly. Dad, do you want this job? Honestly, I don't know. Part of me does. I miss the action, the work that has meaning. But the other part is afraid of putting you in danger again. Chloe took my hand. Dad, I saw what you were like when you saved me. You were alive, real. Not just a driving instructor who was tired of life. You were a hero, a warrior, who you're supposed to be. If this job brings that feeling back, take it. I can handle it. I'm not little anymore. I looked at her, surprised. My 13-year-old daughter was talking like a grown woman. Are you sure? I am. Mom would want you to be happy too. Not just surviving, but truly living. I hugged her tightly. Chloe, you're amazing. You're wise beyond your years. Thank you. You're welcome, Dad. I left the room, returned to the kitchen, picked up the phone, and called Vince. Vince, I agree. Let's open the Northern Virginia branch. I'll be the director. Excellent, Riley. I'll be in Northern Virginia tomorrow. We'll discuss the details, the contract, the salary, the office. We'll get everything organized. This is the start of a new chapter. Yes, a new chapter. A month passed. Vince opened the branch of the security agency in Northern Virginia. An office downtown, modern equipment, a small team of 10 people, all former military and police, experienced and reliable. I became the tactical instructor and director of operations. I trained the team in tactics, hand-to-hand combat, shooting, and urban navigation. We took contracts for VIP protection, cargo escort, and property security. The work was interesting, dynamic, and satisfying. The salary was indeed 3 times what I made at the driving school. I was able to put aside money for Chloe's future, for her college education, and for the music studio Sarah once dreamed of. Chloe was doing well in the 8th grade, an excellent student, a teacher's favorite. She signed up for art courses. Her work was displayed in school exhibitions. In the evenings, we watched movies together, walked around the city, and talked about everything. Life was good, stable, and happy. But one evening at the end of April, as I was returning home from work, I noticed a strange car parked near our building. A black sedan, tinted windows, 2 men inside. Instinct kicked in instantly. Something was wrong. I walked past the car, memorized the license plate, and went up to the 8th floor. Everything was quiet at the apartment door. I opened the door and went in. Chloe, I'm home. She came out of her room and smiled. Hi, Dad. How was your day? Normal. Listen, did you notice any strange people near the house? A black car that's been parked near the building for a while? Chloe thought about it. No, I didn't notice. Why? What's wrong? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Just be careful. If you see anyone suspicious, call me immediately. Okay, Dad. I went to the kitchen and called Vince. Vince, I have a strange feeling. A black car has been parked outside my building for 2 hours. 2 people inside. Maybe it's paranoia, but you'd better check it out. Give me the plate number. I'll run it through the database. I dictated the number. Vince promised to call back in 10 minutes. I sat in the kitchen, drinking tea and looking out the window. The car was still below. The doors weren't opening. The people inside weren't getting out. They were just sitting there, waiting. The phone rang. Vince. Riley? The car is registered to a shell company. The company office closed 3 months ago. The owner is unknown. That's not a good sign. It could be surveillance or preparation for an attack. I advise you to be careful. Understood. Thanks. I hung up and thought about it. Who would put me under surveillance? Enemies from the past, Graham's relatives looking for revenge, or a new threat related to the agency's work? I had to find out. I put on my jacket, took my pistol, hid it in the holster under my jacket, and told Chloe, I'm going out for a bit. Lock the door with all the deadbolts. Don't open it for anyone but me. If anything happens, call the police and Vince. You have his number. Chloe nodded fearfully. Dad, be careful. I will be. I left the apartment, went down to the first floor, and walked outside, approaching the car slowly and calmly. I walked up to the driver's side door and knocked on the window. The window rolled down. A man in his 30s was sitting behind the wheel. Short haircut, hard face, cold eyes. Next to him was a second, older man with a beard. Can I help you? I asked politely. The driver looked at me, sizing me up. Are you David Alexander Riley? Yes. And you are? My name is Max. This is my partner, Oleg. We work for a man who wants to meet you. What man? I can't say over the phone. He'll explain in person. He asks that you come this evening. I'll give you the address if you agree. I was suspicious. A shady offer. Unknown man, unknown location, unknown purpose. Why should I trust you? Max took an envelope from his pocket and handed it to me. Here. Inside is information that will interest you. Read it. If you want to meet, come to the address inside. If not, we'll leave and won't bother you again. I took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a sheet of paper. I read it. Mr. Riley, my name is General Robert Harrison. I'm a former Homeland Security Director, head of the Special Operations Command. I know about your past in the Vanguard, about your work in the security agency. I respect your skills and principles. I want to offer you a job, an unusual job, an important government job. Come this evening at 8:00 p.m. to the address, Government Annex, Room 305. Come alone. This is not a trap. This is an opportunity. I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. Government Annex, a general, government work. Tell your boss I'll be there at 8:00 p.m. Max nodded. Good. He'll be waiting. The window closed. The car started and drove away. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the car leave, thinking, a general? Government work. What does he want from me? I returned to the apartment. Chloe met me at the door, worried. Dad, what happened? Who are those people? Representatives of a man who wants to offer me a job. A serious man. A general. And you're going to meet him? Yes. I want to know what he's offering. It might be important. Chloe hugged me. I'm scared, Dad. After everything with Graham, I'm scared something will go wrong again. Nothing will go wrong. This is an official meeting in a government building with a general. It couldn't be safer. I'll be back in a couple of hours. I promise. Okay. I'll be waiting. At 7:30 p.m., I changed into formal clothes. A dark suit, white shirt, and tie. I wanted to look respectable for a meeting with a general. I left my pistol at home. They wouldn't let me into the government building with a weapon. I took the metro to the station, got out onto the square, and looked at the familiar building. Tall, massive, grey walls, small windows. A symbol of power, strength, and control. I walked to the main entrance and showed my ID to the guards. They checked the lists, nodded, and let me through. I passed through the metal detector, went up to the 3rd floor, found room 305, and knocked on the door. Enter. I opened the door and went inside. The office was large and austere. Oak desk, leather chairs, filing cabinets, portraits of presidents on the walls. Sitting behind the desk was a man in his 60s. Grey hair, neat haircut, stern face, intelligent grey eyes. A suit, but with a commanding air. He stood up and held out his hand. David Riley, glad to meet you. General Robert Harrison. We shook hands. A firm, confident grip. Please, have a seat. I sat in the chair across from the desk. Harrison sat back down, folding his hands in front of him. Thank you for coming. I know the offer was unexpected, but I have a serious reason. I'm listening. Harrison took a file from his drawer and opened it. I've reviewed your record. 8 years in the Vanguard. 23 operations, all successful. Discharged 6 years ago after the unsuccessful operation in Detroit. Since then, you worked at a driving school, then opened a branch of a security agency. Over the last 6 months, you've conducted 20 rescue operations. All successful. An impressive resume. Thank you. But what do you need with it? Harrison closed the file and looked at me seriously. Mr. Riley, I head the Special Operations Command. We handle tasks that cannot be solved by ordinary means. Counterterrorism, counterintelligence, protection of national interests. Right now, I have a task that requires a man of your caliber. What task? I can't share details until you sign a non-disclosure agreement, but I'll give you the general picture. A militant group is planning a major terrorist attack in DC. The target is a high-profile school where the children of top officials attend. We know where the group is located, but we cannot act officially. We need an unofficial operation, fast, silent, and effective. We need professionals who operate outside the system, but for the good of the country. You and your team at the agency are the perfect fit. I thought about it. Terrorists, a school, children. If we didn't stop them, innocent people would die. Children. Just like Chloe. Why are you coming to me? The government has its own special units. We do, but they are tied up by bureaucracy, rules, and restrictions. Every operation requires dozens of approvals, reports, and checks. That takes weeks. We don't have weeks. We have days. You work quickly, effectively, without asking too many questions. That is exactly what I need. And if I refuse, Harrison sighed, then we will try to act officially. But the risk of failure is high. The militants will learn of the plans, get away, and carry out the attack somewhere else. Children will die. I want to avoid that.